Welcome to Now Hear This. I'm your host, Chris Spangle. Now Hear This is a conversation with leaders in Indianapolis that are working to improve the lives of Hoosiers. Our goal is to empower you to join in their work and make a difference while informing you about the unseen aspects of life in Indiana. If you miss an episode, you can listen via podcast at nowhearthisindy.com. Today is the first time we're covering this subject on Now Hear This, and it's become increasingly important through the COVID pandemic, and it is financial literacy. And I am pleased to welcome Dusty Simmons, who is the VP of Membership Development, and James Davidson, the AVP of Financial Liberty at the Financial Center First Credit Union. And they are also the hosts of Carpe Dime, the podcast that is now on the All Indiana Network through Wish TV. Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome. Thank you.
So, first off, tell us about the credit union, because I've been at a bank my whole time. So I'm not even really sure what a credit union is. Can you explain that to me?
Take that one. So it's when I talk to people about this actual subject, I always say that banks and credit unions are a lot alike in the fact that we do the same things. We take people's money for savings deposits. We lend them money when they need money. So we do all those things. The really biggest difference is credit unions are not for profit. So if you bank at a bank, you're just a customer. If you bank at a credit union, you're actually a member and you actually own a portion of the credit union. And our board consists of members that actually bank at the credit union. Whereas if you bank at the big bank, you're not on their board. The biggest shareholder is probably going to be on that board. And I always like to say, I think the biggest difference is if you've ever seen that wonderful movie during Christmas, the one they show every Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, It's a Wonderful Life. You got George Bailey at the Bailey Building and Loan. That's who we are. We're sort of that's sort of our niche.
That's excellent. So financial literacy, Dusty, I would think is incredibly important to the health of the overall nonprofit, to the overall credit union. So what do you do as an organization to help your members thrive?
Yeah, that's a great question. Financial literacy is kind of the backbone of Financial Center here. We kind of call it the heart and soul of who we are. And our job is really to help members improve their lives by learning more about how to manage their finances, how to make good financial decisions. We're not here to steer you one product or service or another. It's more to give you the information that you need to make good financial decisions. And, often for us as an organization, that creates loyalty. People want to bank with somebody that they trust. And when they find that they can, find that kind of trust in us, they stay with us and they bank with us and they tell their friends and family about us, which is how we, thrive and grow.
I'll be totally transparent. I am one of the people who probably need to take your class. I've never been good at managing my money, but I don't really know where to begin. Where should I start? Give me just a mini overview of what are the first steps that somebody who is doesn't have a lot of savings, lives paycheck to paycheck. How do I get out of that lifestyle and move more towards financial freedom?
Oh my gosh, that's like 90% of America, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say, you're in the big boat with a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
That's you're not the exception to the rule there. I always tell people that the first thing is, it's sort of take a step of saying, I need to learn how to do this and I need to be better at this. And I always tell people that the first thing I recommend you do is you actually sit down and you start writing down everything you spend money on and track that for a week or two and find out what the things are you're spending money on. Most of us know what our mortgage or our rent is. We know what our car payment is. We know those big bills. We know we go to the grocery store. But when it gets down to the nitty gritty, how many Starbucks did you have last week? How many times did you go out for lunch last week? Those little things. What are those? I call them spending leaks. What are those little spending leaks where you go, hey, it's just a cup of coffee. But when you do it 20 times a month, it actually adds up, and you're going to find out where that money goes. And the answer is, you sit down and you create the budget, and you start taking the steps. And I tell everybody, you're going to screw up. It's like a diet. It's like exercising. You're going to have a good time. You're going to start out really strong, and then you're going to make a mistake. And most of us, when we make a mistake, we quit. And I think it's really about and when you do make a mistake, just the next day, go back to the budget.
So Chris, don't quit, number one. And number two, find a way once you create that budget to learn how to pay yourself first, which really gets you out of that paycheck to paycheck mentality. And that's one of the biggest things that credit unions have been focused on since their inception is savings first and daily banking second.
Okay, I hear that a lot, but let me push back on that because the pay yourself first thing, my mom has always said this. She's very good with money. And if you're a person out there living paycheck to paycheck, I'm personally, fortunately, not in this boat, but I think a lot of people are overextended and they're living on credit even. And how do you start to pay yourself first and save money and put that money into savings when you're overextended? What would you say to those folks? Let's start with James.
Well, I think there's so many pieces of that puzzle. One you talked about was debt being overextended. That's part of sitting down on the budget and looking and seeing what you owe and how much you owe and coming up with a plan for that. But I also believe this: anybody can start savings. I mean, you just have to commit to it. And this is one of those ones that I preach a lot. It's the 52-week challenge, where number one, you just have to put $1 in a savings account, which I think most of us can put $1 away in a savings account, no matter really where we are in our financial life. Week 2, we put $2 in. Week 3, we put $3 in. And actually, believe it or not, by the time you're done doing that, the 52nd week, when you put $52 in that account, you actually have over $1,300 in savings. So it's really about starting with those small steps and committing to that. And maybe you don't want to do it that way. Maybe the answer is I find $5 that I spend on my whatever I spend it on a week and commit to putting that in the savings account. Because we're always going to find a reason why we need the money. It's just about starting with that little amount. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, when I did a budget, I was shocked at how much money I actually have extra. It's just once I deleted the Amazon purchases, all of a sudden, well, I might be rich.
Yeah.
What are some of the most common things that, as you sit down with folks and talk to them about their financial literacy, other than those spending leaks, what are the other big questions that people tend to have that you get asked all the time?
A lot of times it is credit score and it's debt. And, I've known people in the past that have declared bankruptcy, but after bankruptcy, they've done all the right things, and meaning that they've gotten on a program where they're not spending the way they used to. And we've seen their lives flourish when it comes to their credit. Their credit lives flourish. They've got those 800 scores now. So it's really, a lot of times it's how can I correct the mistakes I've made and get a better credit score and do better. Because a lot of people don't realize this. Example is if you bought a car 2 years ago and the interest rate was high, you can refinance that automobile and find savings that way. But a lot of people don't know that. So it's really about finding those little things, those little ways to save money. And I'm going to use her as an example. One of the things I tell people to do is go through and see what you're spending on, on whether it's your satellite TV or your cable TV, and what you're spending on your what's the other ones, like
all your subscriptions,
and find out how many subscription services you're spending on, and then find out which ones you can cut. Not only that, start calling the ones that you use and ask for them to reduce your payment. I made her call AT&T and she saved $100 a month.
Wow!
So there's my $1,200 a year.
How did you do that?
But, that I'm like, I'm like such a non-confrontational person. And I've been with AT&T for 8 years on my cable, and my bill just keeps ratcheting up year after year. And I finally just called and said, I'm going to cut the cord. And they said, what can we do to help you stay? And I said, you got to save me some money. And they cut my bill in half.
Wow.
So, all of this, it's all common sense stuff that we teach. With a little bit of, financial behind the scenes stuff, but it's all about just, taking the time to look at those things and focus on them, just like it is with any other goal you're trying to accomplish.
And that is a true story. We sat here in her office. I made her call AT&T. Should have seen the pain on her face. I hate doing this, panic. And the phone call took her 15 minutes, and she cut her bill $100. That's the truth. That's why I tell people in class, call, ask for a discount. All they're going to do is tell you no, but you don't know until you ask. I actually did that last week, and I had some service on my car, and I asked for a discount, and the guy says, well, I already gave you an extra $50 off. And I said, well, I wouldn't have known if I didn't ask, right? So,
right.
You've got to ask for those discounts. A lot of times we're afraid to ask for that extra money off.
Yeah, there's really like a resistance to adult stuff. That's the
adulting's hard.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Phone calls, ugh. in kind of prepping for this, you in our conversations before, you said that over half of America can't afford $1,000 emergency. And with coronavirus, we've really hit $1,000 emergency for so many people. And the economy, whatever the stock market says, it looks like the economy is rougher. What are you seeing in terms of the pandemic as you talk to folks, and how are you rapidly getting people prepared and the people that you're talking to?
Yeah, I think most of what we're seeing comes back to what you were talking about with an overextension of credit. Because if you find yourself in an economic downturn and your job's been affected or anything else has happened, and you have an emergency situation or you need to live on what you have saved, and you're living on credit already, that's a really bad plan. And so what we're finding is the people that are in that situation, that the stimulus payment's gone so far and now, we're past that, is they're looking for ways to consolidate the debt they have, reduce it, lower their monthly payments, which are all good things that you should be doing with your finances all the time, looking for the smartest way to use your budget and spend your money. But unfortunately, when you get into that situation where your job's now affected, that's a little bit harder to do. So, we're all about, at this point in time, for the rest of America, it's like, how can we get you to start saving now so you don't find yourself in that spot in 6 months if things continue to decline?
And another thing that I've been speaking on probably for the last 6 months, because this has been going on for almost 6 months, is make those telephone calls and have conversations. What I've seen the pattern, and this is always a pattern I've seen since I've been doing this for 12 years, when people have debt they can't pay, they try to hide from it. And, sort of like, I'm going to put it over the corner, I'm going to get underneath the blanket, and it'll go away. It doesn't. So what I've been trying to tell people is be proactive, call, let them know what's going on in your life. I mean, if you've called any credit card company or any place that you owe money to in the last 6 months, the first thing that it says is, if you've been affected by COVID, dial this number. You've got to take that time and take the steps to actually make those phone calls and have a conversation and let them know what's going on. And so many of the creditors now, they've come up with ways to sort of help you with that. So don't just sit there and think, I can't do anything. Make the phone calls, and that's the first step, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, we love it when our members call and at least let us know what's going on. I mean, that makes the conversation a whole lot different than them just avoiding paying their bill. So when they call, we're able to skip a payment if we need to. We can refinance and lower their payment if it's just an issue. We can put them on a certain, minimum payment. So that's another benefit of credit unions. I mean, we're really here to make sure that you don't get in that terrible trouble. We want to make it as easy as possible to thrive.
Like I said, we're George Bailey.
Right. Yeah.
We want to make sure you keep we want to make sure you have your car so you can get to work. The idea that there's any benefit of somebody not paying their auto loan, they're paying half of it because they're in a situation right now. We'd rather them pay half and still have that automobile to get around and do what they need to do. But it's really about the conversation. And one of our podcasts we had probably a couple of weeks ago was we talked about that. The idea of you need to call, and we had our somebody come in from our member services department,
member solutions
department, and really talking about how it's important to have that conversation.
We are talking to Dusty Simmons and James Davidson of the Financial Center First Credit Union here are you located in Indianapolis? Do you have a physical location?
Yeah, we have 8 locations around the city. We're headquartered out of Lawrence on the east side, right off of 465 and 56th Street. We got a location in Greenwood and also one in Kokomo, and we're soon going to be in the Muncie area.
Excellent. And you can find out more about them at fcfcu.com. And you have a great resource at fcfcu.com/financial-education. That will be in the show notes. And they're the host of the Carpe Dime podcast. So tell us a little bit, give us a flavor of the podcast. What do you talk about on the show?
Well, I've got to tell you a funny story real quick. We sent out our email a couple of days ago about Carpe Dime, and we got emails back from members telling us that we misspelled it. So it is Carpe Dime, not Carpe Diem. So with that was funny. Go ahead and answer this question.
Yeah. So, as you know, people change and how they want to learn about all kinds of topics, including financial education. We launched Carpe Dime in 2020 for commuters and people who love to spend 20, 30 minutes on themselves a day. So we launched it to talk, because we wanted to be really candid about, you know, personal finance. It's not some big stodgy thing that, like you said, adulting, we have to do it the hard way. So we, you know, talk off each other about relationships and money and all of those things that come into your life that affect your finances. And unfortunately, your finances are kind of at the center of your life. So, you know, when your finances are affected, stress is pretty high. So we talk to people about how to avoid stress and make their lives better.
Yeah, I think we talk about it in real life terms, and you know, it makes people laugh because some of the things we'll talk about, somebody will hear and go, "Oh my God, that's us too." And it's really about, you know, talking about financial literacy and about, you know, managing your money without, you know, putting you to sleep. It's really it's sort of a spin of entertainment, because we're all doing things sort of wacky when it comes to our money. So might as well talk about in real life. You know, as an ex-econ teacher, I'm not going to put a supply and demand curve on the podcast because we know what that does to people.
Yeah, but but you're talking to a C student in high school econ. Not my bag, but you can make it interesting. Great. You know what? So last question before we get to the real last question. What are the things out there? What are the tools out there that you recommend? You find yourself recommending a lot that people really ought to take a look at?
I think we talk a lot about budgeting tools, whether that's a Mint or we talk a lot about understanding and knowing where your credit score is. You know, some of those free resources out there that you can make sure you're staying on track with. What else, Jamie?
Well, I mean, back to that one, like Credit Karma, I always tell people, you know, have Credit Karma. It's not perfect, but it's going to give you the ballpark of what's going on in your financial life. Another one, when it comes about, you know, people who talk about investing, and you made the comment earlier about, you know, if I'm that person, I'm just having trouble. And you go to them and you say, well, let's talk about investing. They totally shut off, right? Because it's like, I don't have an extra dollar. Why would you come talk to me about investing? I think one of the things that I'm a proponent of is Acorns. Acorns is so easy to start investing. You're investing with, you know, with leftover change. But that's another good one there.
Yeah. Well, and you know, Jamie is our full-time financial educator for the credit union. So we talk a lot about the topics that he covers in his classes, which are available for free. Whether that we've gone webinar based now. We used to do a lot of in-person stuff. So, you know, it's a quick Zoom jump on Tuesday night or Saturday morning, and lots of good resources, lots of different classes all the time.
Yeah. Oh, and another resource that we offer, we actually have financial literacy online where people can go and learn on their own. It's a Wealth Builder online. So go to fcfcu.com, like you said, educate, and you'll see online classes, and they're free. And people can learn about whatever they want to when it comes to financial literacy.
And we're such a big proponent of financial education in general. I mean, if you're a member here, we actually pay you to learn. So you can earn up to $100 a year just for taking some online financial education or attending our webinars. So
cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Digit. It just takes it out of my, you know, I'm one of those people that's like, oh, let me see how much money I have today. And Digit takes that money out and you never know it's missing, you know, $1 a day, $5 a day, whatever. So those new tools out there are really great too. So I want to throw that one out there. What is the thing that you see every day in your work that you wish everybody understood? Let's start with James.
Repeat the question again. Let me wrap my head around this here.
What do you see every day in your work as you're talking to people in your industry where you're laser focused on it, and then you just go, man, I wish everybody understood this. Just make the world better.
I really think it's the idea of actually saving for yourself. We're a consumer nation, and the idea is that we get $1, we spend $2. I really just wish we could understand the change that mentality. You know, when I buy something, it makes me happy. If I can get a person to change that mentality of when it comes to savings, that gives them that same excitement, that same natural high. That's what I would love to see change, because we really are a society that's materialism. I mean, you said it earlier, Amazon. I see multiple Amazon trucks in my neighborhood every day because that's what everybody's doing when they're at home. online. They've switched from going to Target or wherever, and now they're having it delivered. I'd really like to see people. I always joke about in the household, there's usually a saver and a spender. And I've seen people that have gone from being spenders to savers. And once you see them make that change, it's a different life. You can see how much more comfortable and calm they are.
Oh, my girlfriend has saved like 40 grand in the last 2 years, and we are total opposites. And like, she's going to be in charge of the money someday. But
you've got to listen to our relationship podcast then.
Yeah, just the peace the peace of mind that she has about everything has helped me really turn my stuff around, because I'm just like, wouldn't it be great not to have to worry about a flat tire, and over the course of years, you just go, all right, this is such a more free way to live. Imagine if you had no concern about getting fired, because you've got 3 to 6 months in savings, that kind of stuff. So it's really, yeah, I'm totally with you. It's a total mindset shift that just makes your life a lot more peaceful. Dusty Simmons, who is the VP of Membership Development there, what is the thing that you just would love to impart to people?
Well, I'm going to say that I used to be on the other side of the financial service world, that four-letter word called a bank. And I think the thing that I wish, now that I'm on this side of the not-for-profit side, what I wish more people would see is the value of credit unions, and kind of the shift of what our goals and values are in not only helping people, do their banking, which everybody needs, but also the value that we give back to our communities, and that we want you to thrive. We're not out to, fee you to death or, report to our shareholders huge gains. We're here to serve people. We are an industry that's built on people helping people. And whether you bank with our credit union or another one, I think that is a huge service that credit unions provide to America and all around the world. So, we tell people all the time when we meet them and they're wanting to learn more about our credit union, we're like, hey, we'd love for you to bank with us, but if you're not banking with us, bank with another credit union. They're in it for you, not for their shareholders. So much value, I think, that we provide, that we're a kind of this little known fact in the financial service world.
So can I ask this? If I wanted to open an account with you guys today, because this interview went so great, and I trust you too after just 20 minutes and listening to you, and I'm sure that if I listened to Carpe Dime, your podcast, I'd feel the same, and I'm like motivated to join the credit union world. Are there requirements to joining the club, basically, or how do you open an account at your credit union?
Yeah, so it totally depends based on the credit union that you're looking at. For us, we're community based. So if you live in Greater Indianapolis, you can join. Other credit unions are chartered differently, so there might be some restrictions there, but depending on the credit union you're looking at. But for the most part, membership is really pretty easy, and they'll find a way to get you to become a member. And for us, you just have to live or work in Central Indiana.
Excellent. And you can find out more about them at Financial Center First Credit Union at their website, fcfcu.com. Thank you both so much for joining me. Give one more plug. Where can people find your podcast and find out more information? What should they look for first? Go ahead, Dusty.
Yeah, I think our best resource is fcfcu.com/financial-education. You can learn more about Jamie and the webinars that he offers there. Our podcast is there. Our online free online financial literacy is all on that page.
And you can also get to the podcast through the Indiana.
Oh, yeah, All Indiana Podcast Network. You can find Carpe Dime there, or on any of the major platforms.
Spotify, Google.
And that is at the Wish TV website. I apologize for calling you James, but I did want to. You go by Jamie. I didn't want to confuse people. You two got me. When I started, I go, which one's Dusty? Which one's Jamie? Does that happen a lot?
All the time. It's okay.
Yeah. That's great. All right. Well, Dusty Simmons, VP Membership Development, and Jamie Davidson, AVP of Financial Literacy for Financial Center First Credit Union. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Chris.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to Now Hear This. I'm your host, Chris Spangle. If you missed any portion of our program, you can listen on our website, nowhearthisindy.com. If you'd like to have your organization featured on the show, please contact Gabby at 317-475-7407 or via the contact page on our website. Thanks for listening, and we will be back again next week with Now Hear This. Our goal at the Chris Spangle Show is to help you sound smarter while talking with your friends. If you struggle to understand politics, we explain it from an independent, libertarian perspective with all of the irreverence modern politics deserves. We toss out the screaming heads and put people before political parties and give context to the news to make you think. I'm the host. I'm a 15-year veteran of politics and media, and this show is published every Saturday. It's part of the We Are Libertarians network, and be sure to join Wall Plus for bonus podcasts, the complete archives, commercial-free shows, and more. Subscribe now at wearelibertarians.com.